everybody. Zoom out a little bit here and you can see everything that's going on. Hello, Katie. How are you this morning? I guess it's probably, I don't know, what time is it for you there? Is it nighttime? It is kind of a gray day here in Calgary. We have some snow on the ground, but it's not snowing, but it's just kind of that feeling that winter's coming. Hello, Connie. It's 4 o'clock there. So, all right. Well, good. I'm glad that I caught you. I usually don't go live in the morning. And welcome to everybody who's popping in. It only gives me random names. I don't know how it decides what names to give me, but welcome to everybody. Let me know where you're watching from. Hello, Marilyn. And what are you doing today? It's after Halloween. We had this posted on the Facebook page. Do you hop right into Christmas prep after Halloween? Do you give it a little while? I know some people wait till after Remembrance Day if you're in Canada, or Thanksgiving. Or some people just get right into it. It is 5 o'clock in Sweden, Gunilla. Wow, dark and rainy. Rainy in Vernon. Yeah, it looks almost like it could rain today. I don't know. Hello, Sienna. If it's going to or not, I just briefly looked at the forecast to kind of let my daughter know what to wear, what jacket to wear. Hello, Cynthia. But it's kind of that, it's that weather here where you have to be prepared for anything and bring an extra jacket along or some layers. Hello, Karen. So we are going to play with some fun IndigoBlu stuff today. Hello, Jackie. How are you? And it's always so fun to play with IndigoBlu. You can just grab their stuff, sit down, you can make backgrounds, or you can finish a tag or a card or something, but there's lots of little pieces you could do for steps if you wanted to make a bunch of different things. And there's just so much fun and ideas that you could sit down and play with. Hello, Willetta. I'm sorry if I am pronouncing anyone's name wrong. Yeah, so I grabbed a few things. There's so many fun things in their shop. So they have stencils, they have stamps. We're going to use some of the gray board tags. So it's like a thick chipboard that's pre-made into a tag. Sorry about all the crinkling. I should have had that out before. So it's a pretty sturdy tag, and you can see it's a pretty good size, especially if you want something that you can decorate. So we've got that today. We've also got the Ragtime journal, and I love these journals. So I'm going to show you kind of you get 4 of them, but what I really like is taking these apart and using them for this beautiful cotton paper. And it's something that you can watercolor on. You get a lot in this package. So you get 4 of these, and you can make them into a journal, but you can kind of see that looks like almost let me give you a measurement, like a 6x6 square. And so you've got 5 of them that they've folded, and you can make this beautiful, journal, or you can cut it apart stamp on it, watercolor on it, and that's what we will do. But I love having these on hand. So these are the Ragtime paper journals. Hello, Lori. How are you doing? We also have some dewdrops from the Robin's Nest. I grabbed some colors that I felt like would go with the colors that we're using, and they have so many beautiful mixes in their shop. So it's the Robin's Nest Creative. And what I like to do is I'll look through the jars that I have with the mixes, and sometimes I'll use like one or two colors and then I'll mix it with colors from another jar so that I can match it to my project. Hello, Yuko. So we've got that. We've got some oxide inks which work beautifully on black, and we are going to actually make our tag black with using the G So Good black gesso, which is amazing. They have a white gesso and a black, and it's an artist quality gesso used on canvas, wood, and MDF metal and fabric. So this can be used as a base, and especially with the MDF or like chipboard tags, if you're painting directly on it, it's going to soak in a little bit. Or if you were going to spray on it, that's going to really soak in. But the gesso is going to create that base and the background so that you can really get those layers on there. You're checking in for your doctor's office. Well, that's a fun way to wait for your doctor's appointment. Hello, Anne from Norway, and Valerie, and welcome to everybody who's popped in. We also have some grab and go glue, and this is really great. I've been using it to attach stuff. It's a liquid glue. It dries quickly, it's clear, and it's strong. So I've been really enjoying working with that. I think it's always good to have those really strong glue bases in our stash. Hello, Cassie. And hello, Dee. And Marley Elizabeth. We also have these luscious pigment powders, and I just thought I'd grab a bunch of things just so I can show you how these work. It's not that you have to put all of these on one project, but I wanted to show you kind of a really brief overview of what you could do with the powder, or the embossing powder. And hello, Julianne and Creative Scrapbooker Magazine. And just kind of show you how these work. And then if you have these in your stash, you can pull them out and combine them and make some fun things and have fun playing. We have this gilding gum, which we're going to use with the luscious powder. As well, IndigoBlu has a fabulous YouTube and Facebook page, and they have lots of instruction if you, for instance, forget how to use the gilding gum. Pull up their YouTube channel and have a look, or Google it, and there's lots of videos out there. I have my favorite OLFA scissors. So these are by OLFA Craft, and they're stitching scissors, but they work really, really great for fussy cutting. And then we've got some embossing powder. So they're calling it embossing glaze. It's Glam Rock Gold embossing powder. And here's a close-up look at our project. So we've got the embossing powder here. These are some of those luscious powders which are sparkly. Hello, Bob. We've got some of these fun stamps on the background, and we're going to use our oxides because oxides do show up on black. Thanks. Creative Scrapbooker has just linked the YouTube channel for IndigoBlu. We have one of these great sets, and I think IndigoBlu is definitely known for their rubber stamps, which are gorgeous. So this is the one I pulled out today. This is called Shine Bright, but there's so many beautiful sets in the shop. So this has some nice sentiments. We're going to use this number stamp. I feel like this is a lot of nice ones that can layer, as well as using the light bulb for that focal image. Hello, Catherine and Wendy. And then they also have lots of stencils. So this one is the Mid Mod stencil. I don't have the name in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And there's a couple different sizes. There's a 6x6, and this one is the 5x7. So you've got this kind of design here. You've got lots of things to layer. So don't forget, if you have a stencil like this, you're probably not going to use the whole thing at once. You're going to mask off what you want to use and then use those elements. But I feel like this has lots of things that you could combine and make really neat shapes. So that's just kind of an overview of what we will look at today. I've also got some embossing ink from Ranger. This is a really great ink pad to have in your stash for embossing powders. All right, let's kind of move this out of the way. Oh, we also have this really fun ruler, and this is one of my favorite things. It's a tearing ruler, and it comes in a pack of 2, and there's different edges. So for your papers, if you want to give them that torn edge, you just put your paper down and tear it, and I think it's brilliant. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to take our tag and we're going to paint that with our gesso, and then we can set that aside and let it dry. Hello, Shelley. What's everybody up to today? Are you just hanging out? Hello, Lorraine. Cassie, it's a good afternoon from South Wales in the UK. Awesome. All right, let's grab our gesso. So this is the G So Good Black Gesso. And I think gesso that's a staple that we should have in our craft room too. You can see it's fairly fluid. So we are going to apply it just like a paint. I just have a paintbrush here, and like it's not liquid. It's a little thicker, but you can see that it's going to go on really nice and smooth. Hello, Phyllis. Hello. Wendy's from Spain. Wow. Yeah, IndigoBlu is fabulous. Hey, Tamara, how are you? So look how nice and smooth this goes on. It's just like, it's like butter, really. We're just going to put a nice coat of this over the top, and that's going to give us that layer and prevent stuff that we put on from soaking in. Plus, we want to use those sparkly luscious powders, and we want to use our oxides, and we want them to show up. So the black is going to let them show up. And it's going to dry pretty quick. And I'm not being too fussy. I am going to just do a little bit around the edge. But this is something, I think too, with mixed media, you don't have to be super careful and worry about that you've got something in the wrong spot, because you can just say, it's mixed media and it's supposed to look like that. That's great for me because I always seem to get like a fingerprint on something, or so this way I don't have to worry. So that's covered good enough, and you can see that it's really actually a pretty good coverage just for one coverage, and that's going to dry quickly. Cassie, you're making ATCs. Nice. Are you making them for a swap or just to have in your stash? So I'm going, you know what, we're going to set this aside, and I'm just going to wipe my hands off. So I just keep the cover on tight. I've had this for a while. I've had no problem with it drying out or anything. And then I'm just going to put this in some water so that we can, that it's not going to dry on my brush. And I'm going to wipe my hands off. Otherwise, you know that I'm going to have it all over the place. Okay, I think we're good. So let's set this aside. We can give it a little shot with the heat gun after, but we're not going to worry too much. Now we're going to stamp our light bulb. Let me just check here for a swap club. That's so fun. You wish it was Friday, Tamara? Yeah. You're working but enjoying the demo, Sienna. Nice. Well, that's a good way to kind of pass the time too. Hello, Beck from Australia. Lorraine's just hanging out at the rodeo. You do so many fun things, Lorraine. Your feet are up. You had your run, Katie. Awesome. And hello, Beth from North Carolina. It's cold there, hey? Yeah. I have today off. I do have to work tomorrow, but that's okay. We're going to stamp our little light bulb. So this, like I said, is one of those journals. I like to just tear them apart. Then I have the sheets to use. I have used this as a journal before, but I tend to really enjoy using the paper. It's just beautiful paper. Okay, let's grab our stamp that we're going to use. And you could apply this kind of technique to any tag you're doing. So you don't necessarily have to have this specific stamp. If you saw a stamp or you had one from IndigoBlu that's, your focal image, your sentiment, some background stamps, and your stencil, you're going to be able to follow along and do the same kind of thing. So I'm going to stamp this with the archival ink. This is from Ranger. It's one of Tim Holtz's black soot, and I'm using it just because it's a permanent ink. So all of the Ranger archival inks are permanent, and so that means they're waterproof. So we're just going to press this on here. We'll probably I like to do a couple stampings, but again, it is mixed media. If you were missing part of the stamp, it's not a big deal. And I think too, with these stamps, they have that, look that it doesn't have to be perfect. So we've got our stamp on there. And then I usually just use water to clean off my stamp and a cloth. But if you really wanted to make sure your ink was off, if you were stamping right away with a different color, you could use the Ranger stamp cleaner, the archival ink stamp cleaner, which works really well. But I usually just give it a little wipe and it's fine. Let me just check these comments. Hello, Anne and Melissa and Shelley and Thomas and Arlene and Candy and Susan. Oh, everybody's popped in. Regine. Nice. Everybody who popped in, welcome. Okay, so we have this stamped. You know what? While we have this out, let's just go ahead and stamp our sentiment, and then we can put our stamp press away. This is just the Tonic Media Grip mat, and it's just kind of prevents things from slipping around, and I kind of like to have it in my stamp press. So this says, let your light shine, and we're going to do that just right here. So I have a little bit of room around things so we can use that ruler. And this is where we're going to bring in the embossing ink from Ranger. So this is just a clear sticky ink, and we're using it because we're going to use the embossing powder. So this is the Glam Rock Gold, and we're just kind of getting that ready. You don't have to be like super duper quick, but you just want to kind of have things ready. It's going to stay sticky for a little while. Just grabbing a piece of paper so I can use for my embossing powder. So press this down. We'll do one more. And I think you get what you get because we can't really see because it's a clear ink. Maybe in the light we could, but we're going to trust that it's on here. So we're going to pour our embossing powder over, and the embossing powder is going to melt. I could have used maybe like an embossing powder tool so that I didn't get any extra powder stuck in there. But if you find that you are getting a little bit of powder, you can just give it a brush with a small paintbrush, a dry paintbrush, to get any of that extra off. And again, we are going for that mixed media look, so it's okay if it's not perfect. That's my motto for everything. It's okay if it's not perfect. You have fun making it. That's what matters. So I'm just going to dump that back in there, put my cover on, and then we can... I'm wiping my stamps off as I go. I could just leave them, but then I find that I forget to do it after. So if I do it while I have everything out, do you guys clean your stamps as you go, or do you leave them for later? Okay, now we're going to heat our embossing powder. So we just have our embossing gun, heat gun, sorry, and I usually heat from the back first, especially while my embossing or my heat gun is heating up. And then my powder can kind of heat, especially if it's a thicker powder. You can see that that's melting right away. And then when I bring it to the front, then my powder is going to melt quickly. I can see that it's fully melted. I may have overheated a little tiny bit. You can kind of see where that melted into the paper, I think, because it's a thicker paper, but we're good with it. It looks beautiful. We've got our sentiment. And let's cut, well, actually, let's paint. I'm just trying to think of how we're going to do this. We'll paint as we get that out. But we could definitely tear our piece. I'm going to cut this. I'm just cutting a little bit extra because I want a little bit extra to hold on to when I'm using that ruler. And this paper tears really nicely as well. So I'm just going to put this down where I want to tear it. And I'm just holding this part and then pulling my paper up. If you have a thinner paper, this is going to tear easier. And if it's thicker, it's going to tear a little bit. You're going to have to put a little bit more muscle into it. It's not that it's that hard, but you just need to kind of get it started. I love the look of it though, and I love the look of these edges. Like, look at that. So nice. Okay, then we can just start tearing our strips, and I want to have these words separate so that I can glue them on separately. And then the last part is this little edge underneath. So depending on what you want it to look like, and let me see if I have the other one here, I can kind of show you. Yeah, this one has larger edges. So the larger edges would be more difficult with this thicker paper. But if you had thinner paper, like think of the beautiful edge you could get, or you could even use it as, a tracing edge. Yeah, I think there's so many different possibilities for that. Thanks, Lorraine. And Jackie has just inked IndigoBlu, the website. You let the plastic coating on your I left the plastic coating on your tearing roller too. I didn't even know there was a plastic coating on it. Oh my gosh. And Wendy. I didn't even know there was a plastic coating. Okay. Um, and Monique, yes, it's IndigoBlu. Anyway, so let's take that off. You could totally save this one and stamp something on that. I mean, those two if you wanted to, if you had some little scraps, but I probably won't save that. So we'll set those ones aside. Then let's grab our background. So I can see just a tiny bit of wetness there. It's not that much, but who makes them? The rulers and the stamps are IndigoBlu, Cynthia. We're just going to dry this. So on the IndigoBlu website, there is a list of any Canadian retailers, and I did get them to send that to me as well. If you can't find them, just let me know and I will definitely forward the list. And I think that Paper and Ink were looking at getting them in as well. So if there's something specific that you want, they're a UK company, and if you're in the UK, it might be better just to shop directly from them, obviously. And if you're in Canada, then you can check out those retailers or check with Paper and Ink and see if they're placing an order, if they could order you specific things. I don't know how she works that, Julia, but it's worth checking out. So we've got our black tag. Now we can start with our layers. And I think I've got, if I missed anybody's comment, let me know. But so how I kind of think about doing the layers is what's going to go on top of things. And I know that I'm going to put the Luscious powder and the stencil on top. So I'm going to do my stenciling on the bottom. And no matter what kind of tag I'm using or product, that's kind of how I think about it, because I don't want to try and stamp over the stenciling. I mean, you could, it's not going to be the end of the world, but it's just going to layer nicer if you're doing that. And I think number stamps are wonderful to have in your stash. Those are great for layering. Hello, Debbie. So I'm going to grab, let's see, got our recycling truck going by, so you're probably going to hear that in the background. I grabbed Lost Shadow Distress Oxide, and I'm going to just ink this up really well. I'm not going to bother, putting this in a stamp press. This is in the background, and so if it doesn't stamp perfectly, that's fine. And the way that it's actually made, you can see that it's made to look like it's distressed. So we're going to just stamp this on here. This stamp block is from, I think, one of the Tim Holtz stamps that came with a block, and I love using it. It's just a thin block. So here you can see how beautifully that shows up. And I love that distressed look of the numbers. And then we can just use our cloth and distress ink, and oxides come off really nicely. Now you wouldn't be able to put distress ink on top of this because ink is translucent and you wouldn't be able to see through it. But the oxide is going to sit on top. The oxide is water soluble, so if I was to spray water on this, this would run. I don't intend on spraying water on it, so I'm not worried about that. And I mean, obviously the paper would be affected too. So I think just knowing kind of what your inks do, and if I was going to spray water on this, then I'd want to layer it with, maybe some embossing powder or something like that. So I'm going to grab this stamp here. Hello, Bonnie. And I'm going to put the salvaged patina. That kind of goes with this color scheme that we have here. I also, when I'm creating something, I like to think about, what kind of colors am I going to put on it? And, I don't want to put a whole bunch of random colors. I would rather stick to a smaller color scheme, and then if I felt like I needed another color added in, I would do that. So I love this stamp. And then we'll put one more little bit up here. And there's lots of these stamps in the store, like background stamps, and yeah. So the winter issue of Creative Scrapbooker magazine is going to be coming out soon. I think it ships mid-November if you have a subscription, which is exciting. And what else? We have our new card of the month. Okay, I think that's all our stamping. Yeah. We have our new card of the month that's out for November. So there's a card of the month group. And if you haven't joined that, be sure to check that out. And we have the voting is open now for 32 different cards. So there's 16 categories, and you just go, it's just for fun. You go through and vote for your favorite. And then at the end of it keeps getting down each week to the winners of each category. And the winner is announced at the end of the month. It's very fun. So now we have our stenciling. We've got our background. We could dry it, but really, I'm not going to smudge it too much, so I think it'll be okay. I want to use this kind of shiny star type stencil. So I'm going to grab a couple sticky notes, just so I can mask off that other area. And it's not a big deal, but it just helps you kind of know where your stenciling is going to be. Now we're going to take the Luscious Pigment Powder. You have 2 layouts. That's awesome, Sylvia. There's so many fun projects, and I love looking through and making note of some ideas of things that I want to try when the new issue comes. So this is the gilding gum, and there's a lot of stuff this does, and I don't remember all the stuff it does, but I do know that you can mix it with this luscious powder and it creates more of a paint type consistency. The luscious powders, there's lots you can do with these, so definitely check out that YouTube channel that Jackie linked at the beginning. You can watercolor with them. You can, mix them with paints and gessos and all kinds of things. They're pigment powders and they're sparkly. And the gilding gum, by mixing it with that, you can get more of a thicker element. Now we could make it quite thick and we could use a palette knife, but I actually like using a sponge because I find that it dries quicker and I don't have a big thick area. So mostly because it dries quicker. It's not as thick. So you could mix this in a little container. I'm just mixing it on the side here, and you mix it about half and half. You can then take this once it's mixed and you can use it and put it on metal, and it kind of becomes permanent. I believe it's permanent after this, whereas if you mix it with water, then it would stay water soluble. So I'm eyeballing half and half. And if you had a little container, then you would just keep it in a little container and keep it closed. But I'm just going to use it on the side. And I'm not mixing up too much, so what I have left over, we can just kind of smush on something else for a background. So you can see that it's definitely thicker, and I'll show you how it looks when it's mixed with water as well. All right, Lori, thank you for stopping in. So we've got this. We could use it just like this and pull it through our stencil. We could even make it a little thicker by adding some more of the luscious powder, or we could mix it with some texture paste too. But what I want to do is put it on my sponge. So I'm putting it on the sponge. I'm smushing it down so I don't have a big clump of it on the sponge. And then I'm just going to go over the surface. And you can see how smoothly it goes over the surface, but you still do get a little bit of texture. And then if you want to pick up a little bit after you first got that little bit of that first layer down, then you're going to be able to get into those grooves and get that 3D effect. So when I pull it off, look how fun that is. I've still got a little bit of texture there, but it's fairly thin, so I know it's going to dry pretty quick. If I do use something that's thicker, then I would tend to just set it aside and do another project while I'm waiting, rather than try and dry it. You can, I think most things you can dry with the heat gun. Sometimes you'll get some bubbling, which is okay too. But I kind of like just setting it aside and working on something else if I had something that's really thick. All right, so we've got our base on. So that is so, and look how beautifully that shows up. Sorry, I missed that comment. You can use a paintbrush instead of the sponge. I think the only thing to note is that, you know, if you are painting, you might get some underneath, which is okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Or you could just be, you know, careful and apply it on. It just depends on the effect. You can use a kitchen sponge. You don't have to use a specific ink blending sponge. You know, I think you could probably use a paper towel. So definitely, whatever you have, try it out. And then you just want to give it a little wipe off because we've got the gilding gum in there. I believe that if it dries, then, you know, it's just going to be dried on there. So we will just give it a little wipe. Or if you were doing a bunch of things, you could just have, I have the plastic shoe boxes, and if I'm doing a bunch of stenciling, I will just put a little bit of soapy water in and throw them in, and they can soak until I'm done my project. But it cleans up really easily. So we'll put that to the side. Now we've still got a little bit here. We might need a little bit more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to actually color my light bulb. So I'm going to grab a paintbrush here. I'm going to put a little bit of water onto this paper. It is great for watercoloring. So I'm just coloring in the light bulb itself, and I'm just going to see if I can I can kind of get that onto there. I'm really not worried too much about what's, getting it perfect. I just added some water onto my brush so I can pick up that extra. And that's just giving me some color. And then as it dries, you're going to see that sparkle. So you can watercolor with it with the gilding gum or without. I'm going to show you what it looks like without. Actually, I think we need a little bit more of this because I want to do some splattering. So we're going to add a little bit more of this powder. We'll add a little bit of, so this one is Rapunzel. I know this was sold out in the shop, but there are a couple different sets that have different colors, and the colors are all beautiful. And this one was Hansel. This was from the fairy tale set. Again, I know that that one is sold out in the IndigoBlu shop. It might be available in other retailers, but I just wanted to show you how it works. So I'm just adding a little bit of water to these. What you can also do is you can put them in like a paint palette, and as the water dries up, you can just reconstitute with water as needed. So this one, again, we've got a little bit of that gilding gum mixed in, and it's fine. I think it just gives you a thicker and a little bit more opaque effect. And then this one is just the blue mixed with water. So just so you can see how that reacts, this one is a lot thinner than that first one we mixed up with just the gilding gum. So you've got more of a watercolor consistency. And then when I put this on, we're just painting with it. And I find that it dries quite soft. So I'm just rinsing my brush a little bit so that I don't have as much on, and I can just make these two areas a little bit lighter. I could also add a little bit of this right to the center, to this element. And then basically that's it. And you can see how sparkly that is when we turn it into the light. So what I want to do is I want to take this and just kind of show you the splattering. So I've got this one with the water. So now we're going to do this top layer of the splattering. So again, with our layers, we're thinking about the splattering is going over top. And because this has the water, it's a little bit, it's just kind of easier to splatter. And then when we go with this one, we have mixed water in with this one, so it'll probably react similar. Oh yeah, I can see that it's smaller. So this has the gilding gum, and you get the little smaller droplets rather than the water that kind of spreads out. So it's just a different effect, but you can use either one. So look how pretty that looks with the sparkles, and then that blue and the gold. And then we can just, let me see if we need anything else. I don't think we need, oh, I know one more thing that I wanted to do. So let's dry this first. And these tags, they're pretty thick, and they can really take a lot of mixed media, especially when you have that gesso as the bottom layer. So again, this, if I was not doing this live, I would probably just set it aside for 10 minutes while I worked on something else. And you can see where those splatters go over the ink and the luscious powders. They really do layer nicely. So I'm I think that's pretty much dry. So what I want to do is I have some of that powder stuff on the sponge. Let me see here. Let me check these comments. A dauber. Yeah, I don't know if the brushes, I would think it might be a little hard to get out of your brush, and you definitely want to wash a brush. Um, and sometimes washing those brushes kind of doesn't make them last very long. A gilding wax product for highlighting raised areas. Yes, and you can apply it with your finger. Thank you, Wendy. That's for sure. Like if you have any if you did an embossed background, or if you had some things put onto your background, you can just rub that with the gilding wax and the luscious and rub it on, and it will accent those highlighted areas. Thanks, Bunny. You, I know, I love puns too, Katie. Tamara just made a shirt for her nephew with the light bulb. Watts up. That's awesome. I love it. Tamara, you're so crafty. All right, so what we're going to do is just add a little bit of this gold around the edge. Isn't that pretty? And you can put it around the whole thing, or you can just kind of add it to a few areas just to highlight. I love that. I love those details where it's like you look at the finished tag and you think, oh, that's pretty cool. And then you kind of start looking, it's like, oh, it's layered here and this is a splat, and that kind of thing. So we do have that left over, and what I would do with that is just take either a piece of paper, or we've got this rag paper journal here. I would just add a little bit of water because I don't really want to lose that, and just add this to a background, a journal, anything like that. And these colors, the blue and the gold, can mix and make like a patina look too. So you can dry that and then redo it. I won't make you watch that. I won't make you watch me do that. But you can kind of see how you can get that watercolor look. If I dried that and then just went in again, that's going to give me more of that kind of fun detail. So I definitely wouldn't waste that. And then we can just add some water and wipe this out once you're all done with it. So I also like things that are pretty easy clean up, but I don't have to work too hard to clean up. And then I'll throw my sponge in just my little container of water. Let's see what we want to do now. I do have to dry this, so I'm just going to turn this heat gun on again. We added some water, so it needs a little bit of a drying, not too much. And then we can use our scissors. So these are those OLFA craft scissors. Now this one, I decided I'm going to actually cut right on the line. I left a little bit of a border here, and I'm going to cut this one closer to the line, and we can just kind of see how we like each one. These scissors are really great for any fussy cutting. And I think sometimes we shy away from fussy cutting. We either love it or hate it, I think. But I was watching Tim Holtz, and he said, enjoy the making process. He may not have said exactly those words, but that's what I took away from it. And so I think to me, this is just, you know what? It's the making process. It's cutting something out, it's painting something, and enjoying that process. So I don't mind doing this at all, and it's pretty quick. If you move your paper and you have a nice small pair of scissors, honestly, that makes a lot of the difference. And I can tell already that I like this better than having the border. So we're going to glue this down. We've got the grab and go glue. And so I'm just going, what I'm going to do, because I just want it to be almost collaged down, is I'm going to put the glue on and then just use my finger to spread it out so that it's all over. I've got a thin layer. You don't need a whole lot. And then we're going to add this right onto our background. Like that might not be quite straight. And the nice thing as well with liquid glue is that you can just adjust it. Then we've got our sentiment here, let your light shine. You're on shot 5 now. Oh, okay, I think probably your vaccine, is that what you mean? And you love fussy cutting, Monique and Sylvia. Yeah, I enjoy it as well. Diane Reevely said something similar. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think you're right, Yuko. Just, not feeling like we have to um, rush to get something done. And of course, sometimes we do have to rush to get something done. But I think most people who are makers, they're makers because they enjoy making. And so why don't we just enjoy, like doing those crafty things that we did maybe as kids, gluing things down. It doesn't even have to have a purpose, honestly. Like if I sit down and do something crafty, I know that I feel better. I feel like it doesn't have to be a specific card that's completed. I just feel better knowing that I've done something and I've made something. I'm just going to wipe my hands off, and then we're going to add on a ribbon. So I have this old ribbon. It's old, close to my heart. How do you guys store your ribbon? I decided a while ago that I would organize, maybe I can show you. I would organize my ribbon into a box. It is absolutely nothing fancy, but I have used my ribbon so much more. So I don't even know if you can tell. I sat down, took all my scraps out, divided them by rainbow color, and then I just put like reds in one, yellow, orange in one, and all the colors. And it's in a shoebox. They're bagged, but I can pull out, if I know I want a color, I can pull that bag out and grab a piece of ribbon. And I use my scraps so much more now. They're not all crazy. And I do a lot of things I find by color, so it made sense. It just seemed to work, which it's nice when you come across those storage things that just work. This is some other ribbon or twine from my stash. And not that everything is organized well, but my ribbon is organized, so there you go. All right, I'm just going to tie this on. Tie this in a little bow. And if I wanted to put this on a gift, I would probably add another piece of twine just behind it and then hang it onto the gift. So now we can go and get our dewdrops. Let's see. You have them wrapped on popsicle sticks. Nice, Cynthia. And Carrie's getting her dinner ready. Hello, Lori from PEI. Just you have your ribbon in a plastic box in compartments. Perfect. Thanks, Bunny. So this mix is called Winter Retreat. I liked this gold. It's almost an orange. Like I think if you had it on a Halloween page or something, you could use it would look more orange. But we're going for the blues and the gold. So I think with the gold, you get that feeling of the gold. We'll grab another blue here. And maybe we'll grab one of these small brown ones that still almost look gold. And then I'm going to grab a clear one. So there's so many beautiful mixes in the Robin's Nest shop. So what I do is I put everything on and figure out where I want to put them first, and then I can go ahead and put actually glue them down. And then I would just add and I feel like if you get a little bit too much, just rub some off with your finger. This is going to dry clear. So it doesn't even matter if you get a little bit around the edge. Again, we're just having fun with the process of gluing. And one more. There we go. All right, I think that's it. Okay, hello Tammy. So here is a look at our tag. We've got that pretty light bulb. We've got our layers of stamping and stenciling. And we've used those luscious powders. And had fun just kind of creating those layers. We've got some splatters on there and some embossing powder. So lots of fun. Thank you, Betty. Yeah, this was so much fun to make. And thank you guys so much for hanging out. Definitely check out IndigoBlu, the website, the Robin's Nest, Ranger, and OLFA Creates, if you're interested in any of these products that I used. And check out the voting in the Creative Scrapbooker Card of the Month. That's live now. We also have our new photo prompt in the photo prompt Facebook group. So every day there's kind of a prompt to share a photo. It doesn't have to be a photo taken that day. It's, very loosely translated. It's just kind of something to get you thinking about your photos. And what, if you have a story to tell or you just want to share the photo. And then we have our new sketch as well up in the Sketchy Challenge group. So there's sketches that you can download and use and share. So we just love to see what you're doing. Thank you so much, Yuko. Thanks, Dee. Thanks, everybody. And I hope that you guys have an amazing day. Thanks so much, Lorraine and Monique and Katie. Thanks, Cynthia. Yeah, I had fun. I always have fun sharing with you guys. So thank you for coming and sharing your time and hanging out. And I hope that you have an amazing rest of your week and crafty weekend ahead. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.